Some things are just meant to be, and this year again, we were extremely fortunate to get our trip to France. With lots of things to tackle, from COVID passports to tests, to filling in paperwork and passenger locator forms, we started off from Belfast and headed on a ferry to Liverpool. We then embarked on the long drive from Liverpool to Dover. Checking all our paperwork and customs was a bit of a farce, but we managed to get through without a hitch. Again, once we got off the ferry at Calais, we started off a massive 7-hour drive into the Limousine region in France. This is where our journey begins.
Well, good morning from Lake Heritage. We've just had the first night on the bank and nothing to really report overnight. We did arrive the early hours of Friday morning, so truth be told, it wasn't really just the first night. We did have a tiny bit of Friday into Saturday. At that point I had 2 grass carp. The first one savagely actually damaged the landing net, so the second one we just put back, but I have a nice picture of the first one, which is 37 pound 12 ounces, so really good start to the trip. Surprised with the weather last night that we didn't get anything, but we'll see what happens today and hopefully with something else to report. But I think if we can get these fish feeding, it's going to be a very good week here at the lake. But the first fish of the trip, that isn't grass carp, 31 pound 6 ounces. Happy days, nice mirror. Let's slip her back. Oh. Well, it's Monday afternoon and you join me here back on peg 6, just over a year since I've been here. Had the rods in the water about 15-20 minutes and the middle rod was away. I was hooked to a mirror that gave me the real runaround. I was just about to slip the net under it when it pulled the hook. I think on the GoPro I managed to get a bit of footage of that, but it was disappointing because it looked a lovely scaly little mirror, even though it wasn't the biggest, maybe 18-20 pound, but it still would have been another one in the bank. I had a 31.6 mirror last night. A few fish moving about, but not much. The plan really for today was for me and Dad to get out of peg 1, let that spot rest until this evening, put a bit of bait out again and put the rigs back out after dinner, and hopefully that rest will have done the spot good. It also has given us an opportunity to stalk in a few other spots of the lake to see if we can have anything. It's interesting to see that up here in 6, that was the first take and fish that was hooked during the daytime when most bites have been coming at night. So it gives me a bit of an inkling that I could come up here during the days if things are slow, or if nothing really materializes tonight, I might move up here for a night or two just to give that peg a real good break. That being said, the weather has been changing. You know, we've had quite a lot of rain, temperatures cooling, very overcast. It can be very hard this time of year, as I've known from last year in July and the previous year in July as well. We're out now into the 2nd of August and sort of midsummer, and the weather for now is very forgiving for us for fishing. It just hasn't really ran away with itself. And it makes you sort of scratch your head and wonder, is it something that we're doing wrong, or is the lake just being very moody? But time will tell. We've plenty more time. You know, we've a few more nights ahead of us, and contingency plans really set in place to see if we can bag a couple of these fish along the way. But it's just good to be in a change of scenery this afternoon and something a bit different. I had been trying to record things this morning and at other bits, and I've just reviewed the footage, and the microphone for the lavalier has went faulty. It's only brand new, so that's a real strain, but I'll probably end up buying a decent one of those. I think I cheaped out with the one that I got, but really and truly I should have really bought the one that matched the kit, but you live and learn. So let's take a look at the rigs and bait that we've been using on this session. So really, three things have really been happening. I've been using bottom baits. The mirror that I had last night was simply on a simple knotless knot hair rig with a kicker. I'm not going to bore you and show you much to go with that. The other rig that has been quite successful has been the old Ronnie rig, or spinner rig, whatever you want to call it. I've got that fished on with a D-rig with the kicker cut off and a crimped bit of stiff fluorocarbon down to an anti-tangle sleeve, and that's pineapple and butyric acid wafter, and it's literally just wafting on the bottom, allowing a lot of separation between the bait and the hook. That was actually the exact rig, unfortunately, that I lost that fish on up in this peg about an hour ago. The hook point just wasn't up to scratch, and I hadn't checked it, unfortunately, before putting it out. Another set of rigs that I've been using to success with the grass carp, specifically on the early hours of Saturday morning when we arrived, is the good old faithful multi-rig. Just a simple bit of coated braid down to again, anti-tangle sleeve, bit of putty to keep it down, and the good old bait screw. And the bait screws just make life a lot easier than tying on floss and threading them through. I haven't had any issues ever here. The crays aren't strong enough if you have a good bait to pull that off, and there are plenty of crayfish in here, and that hasn't seemed to be an issue. Mostly the bottom baits for me have been the things that have been crayed, but that being said, the bottom baits have been very successful at getting the runs. So we'll wait and see what the day brings and just play it by ear. I think the last thing that I want to do is go through a spell that is quite dry and sit in the same place. It's all about moving around and making most of the opportunities that are at hand for this week, and remembering that it's as much a holiday as it is a time to be fishing as well. So it's mixing both of those, but it's just lovely to be back up in peg 6. This is one of those pegs where you need to be on your rods at all times. You're snag fishing over to the far margin. I've tried to spread the rods out as well so that there's not too much line in the water. Lines have been sunk, not backleaded or anything like that, because we are snag fishing, and any time that alarm sounds, the rod is being lifted if there's a positive movement in the bobbin, because it doesn't take long for those fish, regardless if they be 15-pound or 50-pound, to get their way into that snag. And to be honest, I was over there yesterday with a bucket of bait, just putting a couple of handfuls over the spot just to top it up. I'll probably do the same again before leaving today, send the boat over, put a few handfuls of bait in, just enough for a mouthful. I don't want to be feeding them, especially if I'm trying to get them onto the spots that we have been fishing during the night. So we'll wait and see what happens. I'm still very hopeful that it's going to be quite a fruitful week, but we'll have to just wait and see what happens. And I'll continue to document everything that happens throughout the week.
Well folks, here we are for the cameras. £21 14 ounces, and it gave me an almighty fight. Literally the rod that I was least expecting to go. A lovely little mirror, probably not caught that many times, and really pleased with this one as it's during the day. Let's get her back and get the rod back into the spot. Happy days. Well, after about a 20-minute battle, I finally landed this lovely £35 4 ounce common. Happy days. I'll just get a quick lift for the cameras. There she is in all her splendour. Made up with this fish. Couldn't believe how quick the take was after putting the rod onto the spot. Happy days.
Well, I must say it's been worthwhile coming up here to Peg 6 today. 3 runs, 2 landed, a £21 14 ounce mirror, and then a common that was £35 4 ounces. So a really good start to fishing up in post 6. I think really tonight, if nothing happens down in Peg 1 where we're being social, me and Dad are going to come up here on post 6 and 7 tomorrow, possibly for the day. If it fishes well, we may decide to stay the night. I think if I'm getting a few off 6 as well, I might do the needful and let him fish here a bit as well, just because it's only fair. We've both come all this way that we both have a crack at trying to land a few of these fish, especially if they're stocked up in one place. It's only fair that we both divide that between us and have some time as well. But it's been a good day, I must say. That's me with 2 grass carp from the start of the trip. The mirror that I had last night at 31, the 2 that I've had up here today. So that's 5 fish so far. So I can't grumble at that. It hasn't exactly ran away with itself, but in the same sense, it's been pretty productive. So I'm happy enough, and I know what I'm doing up here seems to be working. So I'm just going to continue doing what I'm doing. Continue with the same baits and rigs. The pineapple and butyric acid wafters and a little pink Northern Special wafter as well has seemed to do the job for both of those. I know last night as well I had a Vitalac wafter out, the RG Baits Vitalac wafter, and I had a lot of interest in it, but nothing took it. So I'll probably fish similar tonight, one of each of those. Bottom baits did do the run last night. I do prefer something that has a bit of critical balance to it, that if the fish sucks it in, it's more chance that that hook is gonna ring home. So we'll see what the evening brings, and that'll dictate where you see us tomorrow, but hopefully we have a bit more footage. It will be a good video and a good trip, and well worth the watch. I'm sort of mindful that I don't want to rub it in people's faces that we have been one of the lucky ones to get away, because I've a lot of friends who were due to come to France, and I actually felt their pain, you know, that their trip wasn't able to happen. I've had the highs and lows of this trip over the last couple of weeks, really, with the changes in the legislation between France and the UK. It seems now that the French side was the easy way to get through. You know, all we needed was the vaccination passport, and the declaration of no symptoms signed, and that was a straight through border control. Whereas the UK side, the 10-day quarantine, the tests for return, tests when you get back, it's absolutely ludicrous, but it is what it is, and it has helped us get here. I just feel sorry for the likes of Mick and Lee, who own the lake, and every lake owner in France who's having to deal with what's going on at the minute. But I suppose it is what it is, and once this all ends, we'll support them by booking trips into the future. But that's me going to start to pack up here to head down for my dinner. So I shall catch you later on. Well, we're just heading back to the peg, just briefly. It's that awkward moment when you completely forget your lead bag after having that £35 common that I've just had. Literally, I've just checked and I didn't bring any leads with me, stupidly. So heading back to base camp now. Not exactly what the doctor ordered, but a lovely little mirror all the same, not to be discounted. Fish number 6 for me of the session, and it got me out of the bivvy in an absolute torrential downpour and give me a cracking fight under the rod tip as well. So absolutely brilliant. Made up with this one, shows the bait and rigs are working. Happy days. Well, welcome to sunny Limousine. Realistically, the weather's ideal for what we're doing. Absolutely brilliant. We've moved permanently up to post 6. My dad's finally off the mark with a £23 mirror. Bit of a busted face, but a nice looking fish up either side of the flanks compared to a lot of the other mirrors, which are just the usual old French sort of leathery type fish with a couple of scales up the top. For me, I've just put back a little mirror just under £16, so the spots are producing. I thought we'd probably have 1 or 2 more up here and seize the opportunity, but maybe we got up too late this morning. So maybe getting in the dark and first light is going to be our best chance of getting something. With snag fishing, I'm going to be backing off the spots a bit later, and again putting them at first light back on tar. And then after that, I'm going to get some mix made up and get the rods put out for the evening and hope that we get a bit of action. But this weather is ideal.
something.
Well, good morning, folks. It's Thursday morning. Again, nothing to really report overnight after Dad had that 48-14 yesterday. It went all but dead. The weather was cracking last night, really big strong winds. I had a take which materialised into absolutely nothing. So familiar scenes here from trip 1 to Heritage 2 years ago. This is the 3rd trip here, and it all started on this post for me with 9 other anglers all those years back. And this is where I spent a week. So this is where it all began, and it seems only fitting to come and give this post a try for the day. Truth be told, coming down with the boat and the outboard, I'd sat in the middle of the water for about 5 minutes and just looked to see what I could see, and I seen a couple of fish moving in the 15s water over by the Blue Door. There was a rig placed and the middle rod's over there, a little set of reeds and facing a house on the far bank, and then the right hand rod is just mid-water, fishing the back end of the bait we put in on peg 1. I have seen a couple of fish in each of those spots, well, at least one show in each of those spots, with the middle rod having a fish or several fish show 3 or 4 times. So we'll wait and see what happens. I've already had a run on that middle rod, again lifting into it absolutely nothing, but the bobbin hit the rod blank, and at that range I had no choice but to deal with that. This morning we've woke up to the news that the UK have now taken France off the quarantine list as of Sunday. We travel on Saturday, so for the sake of one bloody day they're going to make us quarantine when we get back. So I'm in the middle of trying to book our ferry back to Dover and make it Sunday at 5 o'clock, which would be 4 p.m. British Standard Time. Sorry, 4 a.m. British Standard Time would be the 5 o'clock ferry from Dover. And then again, on the other side of things, when we get back to England, we need to get the ferry then to Belfast. They're sold out on the Liverpool ferry. We're having to up the drive by about 3 hours to get us back to Cairnryan in Scotland. Shorter ferry journey, it'll only take 2 hours, but again, it's not really ideal after the amount of travelling we will have done. But you know what? It's worth it when you can come to somewhere with the scenery like this. I'm not disheartened not having a fish yesterday or today. You know, if it was one day, it was the only day yesterday that I didn't have a fish. If that's it for the trip, I'm not overly that fussed. I've had 6 nice fish on the trip, not the biggest, but again, it's been hard going, so I'm not complaining. Dad's had 2, but I mean, he's made up with that 48 that he had. You know, fish of a lifetime for him, and hopefully he does want to come back to beat that. And I'm hoping for both of us between now and Saturday evening we can bag a few more fish. I mean, I'm quietly confident something will rear its head between now and then. I mean, I've really got a fishing head on now as time is crouching in to try and, you know, winkle something else out. But we'll see what happens. We'll just enjoy a few hours on this post. If anything, it gives my peg up there a rest for this evening, and maybe some of the big girls will move in and we'll have something. Again, baiting strategy has been very simple. Haven't had much, so haven't been putting a great deal more in, enough to just add more to the water column. You know, a scoop or a couple of scoops into the hopper of the boat, and that's been really about it. Since our last chat there about an hour ago, I've just put back a grass carp, probably about 28, 29 pound. Got it into the net and the thing was just going absolutely ballistic. The first one that I had, which I did photograph, the 37-pound odd one, it ripped a hole in the net, and I just couldn't be bothered with getting it out, weighing it, going through the process with them recovering quite poorly as well. I just didn't want to be bothered. If it was more lethargic and it was going to be easier to handle, I probably would have took it out and got some footage of it. That and the fact that some French folk were coming up here trying to have a picnic in the area and asking a load of questions, I just seen fit to pop the hook out and let it slip in the net without causing commotion with them and having them coming over to see the fish and all sorts. So unfortunately I didn't get that on the camera, but that is fish 7 of the session, so you know, averaging sort of a fish a day, if you want to put it that way. Although it is a grass carp, some people will not count it being the king carp family, but it gave one hell of a fight under the rod tip, just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It was brilliant, so enjoyable, and it did get the heart racing. So the rig's back out onto the same position, and hopefully there's some carp sitting out there ready to be caught. So here's hoping. Well, it's just gone 7 AM and I've just had this lovely little mirror, probably about 17 pound or so. If it's the last fish of the trip, so be it. It's not the 40, the 50, the 60 that we've been looking for, but at least it's been a bend in the rod this morning and it's got the heart racing, so nicely done. Let's get this little chap back and the rod back out onto the spot. Who knows, there could still be time for something else. Well, I wasn't expecting action so fast. The rod was only back out from that little 17-pound mirror, about 15-20 minutes. And it's ramped off with this lovely 31.5 mirror. Beautiful fish. Really hard fighting in this weather as well. So I want to get the rod back out onto that spot and maybe try and capitalise on another bite before we go home. Crazy that we've started to get runs on the last morning, you know, but let's get her back and let's get this rod back into position. Happy days. Well, the trip is nearly over and we've finally done it. 42.2. Happy days, lovely fish, great fight, absolutely made up. Let's get this girl back and get the rod back out for another hour. This is a bit of extra bonus time we've had as the quarantine arrangements in the UK have changed now from 4 AM on Sunday morning. So we were granted access to stay on the lake for as much of Saturday into Sunday morning if we've wanted. We're leaving about 8 o'clock tonight. It's now around about 5 PM. I'm just reflecting really on the session that I have had. I've had 10 fish out of 11 bites. 7 of those fish have been 30 plus. So I've had the 42.2, I've had the 37 and odds grassy, I've had the 35 common. All of those PB grassy, PB common, PB mirror. And then the rest of those fish that followed, the grassies, the other mirrors as well. It's been good. This morning has been an absolutely outstanding morning. The weather has just started to get very windy today again. Slight pressure drop, but not much. It's lifting again next week into a higher pressure, but it had those fish feeding this morning, and the rigs were basically fished from the opposite side of where we were at the start of the week, just to capitalise on any fish that had moved down over that bait, and it did work. I had 4 takes in the space of about 2 hours. The middle take was a bit of a stuttery one, and by the time I got to the rod there was absolutely nothing there at all. And then the last fish that I had, which I hadn't put the camera on or did anything for, was a tench just under £9. I think it was £8.14. So a really lovely chunky tench, which actually, even on this heavier gear, gave me an absolutely almighty scrap under the rod tips. It's definitely time to go. You know, we've got absolutely drenched today packing the car. We're just waiting on our barbecue chicken pizzas before we hit the road, and just really trying to savour and enjoy the last few minutes here at the lake. Massive thank you to Mick and Lee, the owners of the lake, Sean and Paula, who run the bistro, that have given us the food package at the lake this week as well. Paula is Lee's wife, and Sean is his stepson, so it's been an absolute pleasure to enjoy the food that they've given us this week, and a really good session. My dad had that £48.14 mirror, absolutely stonking fish. He's had a lovely grassy. He had a really nice mirror last night, and the first fish that he had as well that got him off the mark up in peg 7. So although it hasn't really ran away with itself for either of us for a week in France, this time of year can be difficult. It's the only time that suits me with work, but at least there's been PBs all around. It's been good. The weather has been kind to us, that it hasn't been that hot. It's been more UK style weather. That's fine, we're not here to get a suntan. But listen, just to say thank you for watching the vlog. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. If you've any questions, drop me a line. In the description I'm going to put in information on how to get in touch with Mick and Lee to book the lake, information on the food package, and all of that as well. And again, if you want to drop me a line if you have any queries about fishing here at Lake Heritage. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please do like the video if you have, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hopefully it won't be too long before I catch you out on the next videos.